It's 2:30 in the morning on a Sunday in Moss Point, Mississippi. A car carrying 3 teenage girls has just veered off the road and plunged into the dark waters of the Pascagoula River. The vehicle floats for about 20 feet, and then it begins to sink. Standing on the bank is 16-year-old Corian Ennons. He doesn't pause to weigh his options. He kicks off his shoes, pulls off his shirt, and dives straight into the water. Corian reaches the sinking car and manages to pull all 3 girls onto the roof, eventually dragging them to shore. But he doesn't stop there. When a responding police officer panics and starts drowning in the murky current, Corian swims back out and rescues him too. When reporters later asked Corian what went through his head, his answer was simple: "I can't let none of these folks die. I wasn't even thinking about nothing else." We celebrate this kind of action. But from a purely biological and economic standpoint, diving into a lightless river to save strangers violates the most basic, hardwired rule of our species: self-preservation. Traditional economics is built on the concept of the rational agent. This theory assumes that human beings make decisions to maximize their own advantage, meaning we only take actions that will leave us better off than we were before. This chart visualizes a concept called expected utility. Every time you make a decision, your brain performs a subconscious calculation, plotting the potential benefits of an action against the potential costs. If the benefits weigh heavier, you take the action. But applied to Corian's river rescue, the math collapses. The cost scale is overloaded with the risk of drowning, while the direct benefit is zero. Economists classify this as extreme civil heroism. It requires 3 specific parameters. First, the rescuer receives no financial return. They have no prior genetic or social relationship to the victims, and the act carries a near certain probability of fatality. Under these metrics, the rescuer is acting against their own survival. Extreme civil heroism functions as a break in our baseline behavioral programming, a biological contradiction that shifts the focus from the individual to the group. To explain that contradiction, researchers in a field called human behavioral ecology look at how traits persist over generations. If risking your life for a stranger usually ends in death, natural selection should have prioritized more self-interested traits long ago. This simulation pits 2 digital communities against each other, one of purely self-interested agents and one possessing the heroic trait. Random environmental stressors severely deplete both populations. As the model runs, the rational community shrinks, while the heroic community recovers and expands to outcompete. The math works like this. When disaster strikes, the individual hero often absorbs a total biological and economic loss. They die. But by absorbing that specific loss, they prevent a cascading failure that would otherwise wipe out multiple members of the group. In this model, the hero is an evolutionary pressure release valve. By absorbing an irrational individual loss, they provide a buffer that allows the surrounding community to maintain its numbers and outcompete groups focused solely on individual gain. Because this trait is critical to collective survival, human societies have spent over a century building complex bureaucracies designed specifically to protect, subsidize, and encourage it. In 1904, 2 men gave their lives trying to rescue 181 miners trapped after a massive explosion at the Harwick mine in Pennsylvania. Industrialist Andrew Carnegie was deeply moved. He quickly established a $5 million trust fund exclusively to recognize and financially support civilian heroes and their dependents. Carnegie set strict criteria for his medal. The rescuer must be a civilian, they must act knowingly and voluntarily, and their action must carry an extraordinary degree of risk to their own life. 53 years later, a short circuit sparked a massive fire inside a decorated tent at the Red Fort in Delhi, India. Harish Chandra Mehra, a 14-year-old scout, immediately pulled out his knife, ripped open the burning canvas, and saved hundreds of trapped people. Watching firsthand, India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, established the National Bravery Awards to annually honor courageous children across the country. These separate historical institutions serve the exact same biological purpose. By offering financial assistance, scholarships, and prestigious medals, societies formally subsidize an economically irrational act to ensure its continued presence in the population. Since its inception, the Carnegie Hero Fund alone has recognized over 10,000 individuals for acts of civil heroism. These recipients include children as young as 7, awarded for everything from fighting off leopards to saving friends from flash floods. The medals, scholarships, and funds attached to these awards act as society's deliberate attempt to balance the economic scales. They provide a post-crisis return on investment for an action that inherently offers zero personal ROI. When 16-year-old Corian Evans stripped off his shirt and swam into the dark waters of the Pascagoula River, he was executing an ancient survival mechanism, hardwired into our species to protect the collective. When we witness an ordinary person dive into a sinking car or run into a burning building, we are seeing the activation of a survival mechanism that predates our modern understanding of economics. The outer edge of the Carnegie Medal bears an inscription from the Gospel of John: "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." It is a recognition of the sacrifice required to protect the many at the cost